Hi, this is Jonathan and welcome to my video discussion about the basic device configuration. In this video, I will show you how to configure the switch and the router. So basically, we will be configuring the initial settings of our switch like the host name, the privilege mode, password, the message of the day, console password, Vty password, the encryption of all the passwords, saving the configurations, configuring the switch virtual interface, configuring the switch port, and the SSH. For the router, we will be configuring the basic configurations plus the interfaces. So you will notice here, under the first part, we have the switch mode. So basically, there are different levels of access to our devices. So the first is the user exec mode, which is represented by a host name and a greater than sign. So under this mode, it allows us to access all the basic monitoring commands. So meaning to say, we are using this to check information, to check the configurations available in our device. For the privilege exec mode, which is represented by the host name and the pound sign, under this mode, we are allowed to see all available commands that we can use for the device. And then the global exec mode, which is represented by the host name, config, pound sign. So this mode allows us to configure our device and it will be applied to all interfaces present to our device. And for specific configuration, so it means that if we want to configure a certain feature inside our device, then we can do that under the specific config mode. Now, please take note also about the question mark command. So this command is what we call the help function. So it will display all available commands. So on the left side of your screen, you will see that our computer is connected to our switch through a straight-through cable, which is represented by a black line, and a light blue color cable, which is the console cable. So this is our only way to access our switch through the console cable. So I will just click the computer, and then I will go to the desktop tab, and then I will click on the terminal. For the real devices, this terminal is actually a terminal emulation software, like for example, a hyper terminal, or if you have configured the SSH, so you can access or you can use the PuTTY. So just click here, the OK button. And then, of course, this is the information of the operating system. It will also inform you about the different interfaces present on your device and other information here. So I'll just press the enter key, and then I am now inside my user exec mode. Okay, so under this mode, if I type question mark, it will display all available commands under this mode. The first column are the commands, the second column, these are the short description of those commands. So what I want to do now is to turn on the privilege command. So I will type the command enable. Okay, so my first task is to change the host name. So what is the importance of changing the host name? When we buy or whenever we purchase a switch or a router, it is always having the default host name. In this case, the default host name of the switch is switch. So if, for example, you are configuring more than one device, for example, around 10 or 15 or 20, if you are not changing the host name, then it's difficult for you to troubleshoot because you don't know which switch you are into or which switch is having the problem. So it is better for us to change the host name. So what I will do now, I will go to the global config mode. So I'll just type configure terminal, and then I will type the command hostname. For example, my hostname is abc-sw. So you will notice that the switch hostname is changed now to the abc-sw. So the next task that I need to do is to secure my device. So it's like the first line of defense is actually creating a password for the privileged access. Okay, remember, no, when we type the enable command here, immediately it allows us to enter the privilege mode here. So we want to secure that. So the first type of securing our privilege mode is to do the unencrypted password. So what is that? So I will just type the word enable, and then I will set the password for that. So for example, Cisco. So this enable password Cisco, it's unencrypted, meaning to say anyone can see this password. But if you want to secure it, or if you want to have a secured password, then you simply put enable secret class. Okay? So that's how we secure our privileged access. Now next we need to create the message of the day. So that the message of the day is actually a short information, or if you want, it's like a short announcement that is being displayed to our device every time someone is trying to access our device. Okay, especially if they want to access through a console connection or a virtual terminal connection. So the command for that is banner MOTD, which is a short term for message of the day. Then I will use a pound sign. Then I will put, for example, authorized personnel only, or I will type for authorized personnel only. Okay, and then I need to end it also with a pound sign. Okay, so the next one is to set up the password for our console. So as I have said earlier, so we need to secure our device, and in this example, no? In this example, we are connected to the switch through a console connection. Okay? So we need to secure it also. And at the same time, if in case there is a telnet access or a virtual terminal access, then we need to secure them also. So that's why you will see here, no? We need to create the console password and the virtual terminal password. So to do that, so the command is line console 0. So there is only one console port for this switch. So I am now entering a specific config mode, config line, and then password Cisco login. So it means that if someone would like to access the device through a console connection, then they will be prompted for or asked for a password. Same goes with the virtual terminal. So for 0 to 4, it means that I am creating a password for the 5 virtual terminal sessions. Okay, so for example, I will use also Cisco and then log in. Okay, now to save this, so I can go back to the privilege mode by typing or pressing Ctrl Z and then copy running config startup config. So the syntax for saving our configuration, of course, the word copy, and then source, and then destination. So what is this running config? Running config is actually all of this. Okay? So all commands that you are seeing right now, these are part of the running config. So running config in the sense that it is stored in RAM. So you know already, what is the characteristic of a RAM? That if we turn off the device, then all contents in RAM will be erased. That's why we need to save it in our startup config, which is stored basically in the NVRAM or the non-volatile random access memory. For network devices, we have the NVRAM and we are storing all our configurations in the NVRAM. So that is the name of that location, startup config. So I will press enter. Then I was being asked destination file name, startup config. Then I'll just simply press enter key. So you see there that I have a successful saving of the configuration. Okay. Now, as I have said earlier, that there is this what we call a virtual terminal access. Okay. Now, it can only happen if there is a switch virtual interface or an SVI. Because what is the requirement for a telnet access or a remote access? The requirement for a telnet access or remote access is, of course, an IP address. So if you notice, previously, with our command, we did not configure any IP addresses at all. So that is why, if you really want to access this device remotely, then you need to set up the switch virtual interface or the SVI. And under the switch virtual interface is actually the management VLAN. So VLAN will be discussed, of course, in the later chapter, but for this topic or for this discussion, management VLAN is actually a logical group or a logical connection used in order for us to remotely access and manage our device. So what are the things that we need to do for this, for configuring the switch virtual interface? First of all, we need to enable this interface. So I will go to the global config and then I will type interface. Now what kind of interface? So I will put VLAN 99 for example. As I have said, VLAN discussion will be on a later chapter so that you will fully understand why is it that I have written here as interface VLAN 99. And then after that, I need to assign an IP address to this interface. So for example, IP address 172.17.99.11 and the subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. Okay, so this address, so that is the address of our VLAN 99 IP. So 172.17.99.11 subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. Now, there is another thing that is important, and that is our gateway. So, again, the VLAN 99 is treated as a certain interface present in your switch, but in order for the information or in order for the data or the packets or the frame to be forwarded or to be received, we need a gateway. So the gateway here is actually 172.17.99.1 for example. Okay? So how can we configure this gateway? So again, I will go back to the switch. And then I'll go back to the global config. and then I will type IP default gateway. Okay, so IP default gateway 172.17.99.1. So it means that before we can access our switch, we need to pass through our gateway here, which is the 172.17.99.1. Okay, so let's save. Again, I'll go back to the privilege mode, copy, running config, startup, config. Destination startup, confirm, enter. So there you have it. Okay. Now, if you want to check your configuration, so let's try to put the command show running config. So it will display our current configuration, which is stored in RAM. So as I have said earlier, initially, we set the privileged password as Cisco. So you are seeing it. So this is the unencrypted. Now, when we created the secret password class, the word class is changed or replaced by a certain character or a series of characters. Okay? So another thing that we have created is the VLAN 99, having the IP address and the and the subnet mask plus the gateway. We also set the banner and our console and Vty password. But take note here that you are seeing the word or the password Cisco. So we need to encrypt them also. I will go back to the global config and I will type service password encryption. So this will encrypt all passwords. So copy running config, startup config. So every time you do something or any configuration, make sure that you save so that you will not repeat if in case your device turned off unexpectedly. So show running config. Sorry, wrong spelling. Show running config. So you will see here now, our password Cisco is being replaced by a series of characters also. Okay, so that is our basic configuration in our switch. Okay, now there is one more thing that we need to configure. So, of course, we have created our interface VLAN 99. But how is it that this computer can access our switch remotely without the use of the console cable? So you will notice here that our computer is connected to the port 1 of our switch. So which means we need to set up or we need to configure the port, and that is the configuring the switch port. And we will allow this port to be a member of the VLAN, the VLAN 99. Why is that? Because if you try to look first about the details, of our switch. So for example, I will put the command show interfaces or show IP interface brief. So you will see here, these are the port and the status. Okay, so we have 24 ports, fast Ethernet, Gigabit 01, Gigabit Ethernet 02, and we have the VLAN 99. Now, if I will put the command show VLAN, So you will see here, you will notice that there is the default VLAN, the VLAN number 1. And you will see here that under VLAN 1, port 1 up to port 24 plus Gigabit 01 and Gigabit 02, all of them are members of the default VLAN. So what does it mean? Even if we have created the management VLAN, it will not be or we cannot access our switch remotely, simply because all of the ports are assigned under the default VLAN, meaning to say all of them are in that group. So what we need to do, okay, what we need to do is to assign the port to our VLAN 99. So for example, configure terminal, then I will go to the interface, for example, fast Ethernet 0/1. Then the command is switch port mode access. So I want to up this port, or I want this port to have an access to VLAN 99. And then switch port access VLAN 99. So you will notice here that the interface VLAN 99 changed state into up. So the line protocol also for the VLAN 99 is up also. Okay? So which means we can now access our switch remotely. So let's have an example, or let's try it. So first of all, I will put an IP address to the computer. So for example, the IP address of my computer is 172.168.1.169.254, subnet mask of 255.255.255.0, gateway of 172.168.1.1. So they need to have the same gateway, so that because they should belong to the same network. Okay? And then we will go to our computer, and then we will put those information under the static IP 172.168.19.254, 255.255.255.0, 172.168.19.1. Okay, so we now have an IP address to our computer. So for example, I want to access the switch without the use of the console cable. So let me remove first the console cable. So I want to access my computer. Earlier, I told you that in order for us to access our device, we need a console cable. Now, in this example, we no longer have the console cable. Instead, we will access the switch through the Vty connection. So I will go to the computer. I will go to the command prompt. And then I will put the command telnet. Now, which IP address? The IP address of the VLAN 99, 172.168.19.11. Right? 99.11. Okay, so you will see here that there is the user access verification. So this is now the console access. So Cisco. And then I need to put the word or the command enable to turn on the privilege. But I will be asked again of the password for this privilege mode. So the command is class. So I am now inside the switch using a telnet connection. Okay. Now, here at the last portion, your last part of the switch configuration is configuring the SSH. Now, what is the importance of this SSH? As we all know, Telnet is somewhat unsecured, simply because it is plain text, no? Meaning to say, as you are accessing the device remotely, all information that are moving in and out of your device are readable. So if there is someone who tries to attack you or attack the network, like the man in the middle, so they can easily get and understand the information that is passing through between you and the other device. So the solution for that, okay, is to create the or enable the SSH. So let me try to use again the console cable. Okay, then I will go to the terminal again and I will try to connect to the device. So I want the connection more secure. So I will use the SSH. So first of all, let's try first to check if our device is capable of supporting the SSH. Okay, so you will see here, when I put the command show IP SSH, it shows you that it is disabled. Okay, so it means that SSH is present in this device, but it needs to be configured. So the first command, okay, is to set up the IP domain. So for example, under the global config, so configure terminal. So I will put IP domain name, for example, cisco.com, and then the RSA key. Okay, so what is that RSA? So under RSA, so let me put here first, verify SSH support from your device, and then you need to configure the IP domain, and then generate the RSA key. So basically, RSA it's a private key, okay, based on the Rivest-Shamir-Edelman algorithm, and it is used for authentication. Okay, so it requires an establishment of an SSL and the TLS session, no? Secure Socket Layer, Transport Layer Security. Okay, so here in generating the RSA key, the command that we need to type is crypto key generate RSA. Okay, so what does it mean? So I want to have an RSA algorithm to provide me of the regarding the encryption. Okay, I want to use the RSA algorithm. So here, so I was asked to create or to choose for the size. Okay, the size of the key modulus, meaning to say how many keys or how many combinations should I use, okay, for encryption. So by default here, the bits in the modulus is 512, but I want to make it as 1024. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is to configure the user authentication. So configure user authentication. So what does it mean? Of course, for SSH session or for SSH connection, again, it requires for an authentication. So we need to set up the username and the password. Okay. So in this case, I will put username, for example, admin, and then secret, CCNA, for example. So again, no, I'm using the word secret because I want the password to be encrypted. Okay? And then after that, so you will see here that the SSH has been enabled. So it's already activated. So the next thing that we need to configure is to configure the Vty lines. So take note that for SSH, we need to configure all the 16 lines available for virtual terminal. Okay? So, configuring 0 to 15, this allows the Vty or the Vty configurations that we have set up earlier. So, meaning to say, we are trying to limit the telnet, or we don't want the telnet anymore. So, instead of the telnet session, we will now use the SSH for the entire 16 terminal session. Okay? So, what is that command? Line Vty 0 to 15, and then transport input SSH. So, meaning to say, we will be using the SSH for these virtual terminal connections. And then we will be requiring to put the password, the username and the password that we have set earlier, which is the username admin secret CCNA. So that is the login local. So it will be requiring for an authentication. And after that, we will go to the global config again. And we can now enable, the next step is to enable the SSH version 2. So enable SSH version 2. So the command here is IPSSH version 2. Okay, so let's now save again our configuration. There is no destination. Startup config. So if you want to display the information that we have set up, so there is the SSH. You see here, username admin, the secret password is encrypted. Okay, and we have now the session, okay, for the virtual terminal for the SSH. So you will see here, no? Line Vty 0 to 4, it requires now input as SSH. So it is no longer a telnet session, meaning to say even 0 to 4 is with the SSH now. Okay, so that's how we configure our switch. So next we move to the router. So what I will do now, I will just move my console cable to my router. So I will connect it to the console port of the router, and then I can now access the router through my computer. So again, I will use the terminal, then click OK. So I am now inside the router. So again, the router modes are almost the same with the switch mode. So there is the user exec, privilege, global, and the specific config mode. So for basic configuration, they are quite the same, or they are almost similar. There is the host name, creating the password for the privilege mode, message of the day, the console password, Vty password, even SSH. You can do it here also. Okay? Now, the other thing that we can configure, or that we can do with our router under the basic configuration, is to set up the interfaces. So, first of all, first time use of the router, you will be given, or you are given the system configuration dialog. So basically, there are two types to configure our router. Number one is through the system configuration dialog, meaning to say there are preset questions embedded in the router, and it will be asked to the user. So it's like a step-by-step instruction on how to configure the router. Okay? That's why you are being asked, would you like to enter initial configuration dialog? So you are given an option whether you want to just answer the questions to do the configurations, or you want to do it on your own. Now, for this demonstration, I want to do it on my own. So I will click N, or I will type N and then press enter. So press return to get started. So I am now inside my router. As I have said, host name, default host name. This time it's router. Greater than sign indicates that I am inside the user exec mode. So I will type enable command to enter the privilege exec, and then I will type the configure terminal so that I can configure and change the host name. So for example, host name ABC. Okay, so you see now that the host name is changed from router to ABC. So next is the unencrypted password for the privilege, enable password Cisco, and then I will put the secret password. So make sure that you are using different passwords so that you will see the difference. No? You will not get confused. Then the banner. So this time I will put only or do not access this device. So you can create any message that you want to be displayed on your device so that other people will somehow be alerted, not to do or not to touch your device, your network device. Okay, so that's my message of the day, and then I will configure the console port. Again, router is only having a single console port. So password Cisco login, and then line Vty04. As I have said, you can set up also your SSH here. So exit, and then I need to encrypt all passwords. So service password encryption. Sorry, wrong spelling. Okay, so service password encryption. After this, I will save the configuration. So the same thing, copy running config, start up config. Okay, so the next thing that I need to configure is the interface. So if in case, for example, okay, so if in case there is an active interface here, so for example, this gigabit, gigabit 0/0, gigabit 0/1, or for example, if there is a serial interface present, then there is the serial 0. So you need to configure all of those interfaces. Okay? So by the way, what's the difference between a gigabit interface and a serial interface? So fast Ethernet and gigabit Ethernet, these interfaces are used for local area network connections. Okay, And for your serial connection, of course, this is for the wide area network connection. So that at least you would know what type of cable that you are going to use. Because basically, for fast Ethernet, we are using straight through. And for wide area, for serial, we are using serial connection or serial cable, or we call it sometimes or most of the time as Vty cable. Okay, so again, when you configure the interface, so you need to configure the interface that we are using. So in configuring interface also, you need to consider these things. Okay, so you need to configure with at least one IP address. So what do we mean with that? Take note that there is what we call the dual stack topology, wherein for every interface, we can assign an IP version 4 and at the same time an IP version 6. So as a requirement to configure the interface, at least we need to configure one IP address, and then this interface must be activated. And number 3, okay, this interface at least must be given a description. Actually, this description also, you can do it with your switch. This description, it's like a text that describes this particular interface. For example, this interface is connected to this interface. So that is the description. Okay? So for example, let's try to configure Gigabit 0, for example. So interface Gigabit Ethernet 0/0. Oh, wait. Let me put another switch here. Okay, and then a straight through Gigabit 0/0, so that you will see that it is really working now. So I'll put the computer here. Wait, let's just move here. And then straight through port 2. Okay. So for example, Gigabit 0/0, so it should be Gigabit Ethernet GI. I'll just use the GI 0/0. Sorry. Did you see my mistake here? I am in the privilege mode. So see, that's why it is showing invalid. So I need to go to the global config, configure terminal, and then interface Gigabit Ethernet 0/0. No space. Okay. So for example, I will set the address as 192.168.1.1, 255.255.255.0. And then, if I issue the command, so again, number 1, configure with at least one IP address. So I have already set the IP address. Then the next command is to activate. So the command to activate this interface is no shutdown. So you will notice initially it is showing as red here, no? Meaning to say it is turned off. So if I press enter key, so there is a status now, line protocol change state to up. So it is now turned green, no? It is turned on now. Okay. Now if you want, you can also add the description. So the description. So description is connected to LAN A, for example. LAN A. So that's my description. Okay. So I will just save this. So copy, running config, startup config. Then show running config. So you will notice here under the Gigabit 0/0, so there is the description where it is connected. So basically, this is LAN A, and then I set the IP address and the subnet mask. Okay, so for example, I will put here an IP address. So that's 192.168.1.254, 192.168.1.1. IP address, I'm just verifying the IP address of 00. Yeah, 1.1. Okay. So 192.168.1.1. So let's try to ping our router. Ping 192.168.1.1. So I can now ping this particular router. Okay. So again, in the basic configuration, in the basic device configuration, so first thing that we need to understand the different modes present in our device. So we have the user mode, user exec, privilege exec, global exec, and the specific config mode. So we should understand the functions of those modes so that you will not get confused, or you will not, or you can successfully configure your device. And another way to help you with your commands is to use the question mark, and that is the help function. So again, it will display all available commands. And also, in order to secure your device, you need to create password for your privilege mode. So you need to create password for your console connection, for your virtual terminal connection, and make sure that you encrypt all of them using the service password encryption. And in addition to the security feature, instead of just relying on telnet, which is using a plain text, better to set up or configure the SSH so that it will be the communication between two devices will be encrypted. Okay, so I hope that you understand something with this discussion or in this video, and hope to see you on my next video. Thank you very much.